Yeah.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad that you're here. We wanted to take a few minutes today and just say welcome for coming. This is for anybody in the future who watches the recording, because we know we have a large audience that watches the recording typically. And wanted to say thank you for coming and thank you for watching. Today we're just honored to be sitting with Miss Joy Walker, and we're going to ask her a few questions today and get to know her a little bit better. But the goal here is around Transformation Tuesdays. It's talking to people in our community who have chosen to do work that transforms our community. We don't always choose to do that, right? Sometimes we just want to kind of go with the flow. But there are people around us who go out of their way to try to transform and make the world a better place. So that's what this entire series is about, and I'm very grateful. Also wanted to say thank you so much to Susan Hildebrand. Without her, none of this happens, none of it. So Susan, thank you so much for your hard work and connection here. We really do appreciate it. I'd love to read her bio real quick as we get started. And pardon me, I'm fighting a little bit of getting over a cold, so pardon me. So born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky, Joy Walker has over 20 years of experience in the supply chain, diversity, equity, and inclusion space. She works in the public sector at Louisville and Jefferson County Metropolitan Sewer District as their senior supplier diversity and SBE program manager. She has 2 graduate level degrees, most importantly, a 2022 UofL HROD graduate, Master's of Science HROD graduate, and then another one from another college around there, which we won't mention, but they're cool people too. And she has an MBA from there. At MSD, Joy, as a senior manager, manages and oversees the development and integration of their supplier diversity strategy for recruiting, developing, and inclusion of diverse minority and woman-owned and small local businesses to ensure they have an opportunity to gain business with the company. She firmly believes that the vitality of supplier diversity works for their customers, operations, and community at large. Ms. Joy Walker is a Christian who in her spare time continues to volunteer, sits on various community nonprofit boards, and has received prestigious awards and honors for her civic engagement and academic achievements. Welcome, Ms. Joy Walker. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sheffield. You were just overly kind, so I do appreciate you taking a few minutes, and I'm very grateful for you and Ms. Hildebrand for this platform this morning, and welcome to our audience. I'm just delighted that you took time out of your busy schedule to engage and interact with us in Transformation Tuesday. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Joy. We really do appreciate you being here. I also wanted to mention too, just because I can, that Joy's bio was actually about 16 pages long of the cool stuff she's done. And that's a serious statement. I reduced it to something that I could read in a couple minutes, but just make no mistake. You don't get brought here because you've done a couple things. You're literally making change in the community. So in lieu of reading Miss Joy's 16-page size 1 font with no space between the lines bio, I hope that suffices, and we're just honored that you're here. All right, couple questions. So we've got some questions for you, Joy. Go relaxed, calm. At the end of our conversation, we'll open this up to the whole group here to ask some questions if they have any for you. But just to kind of get us started, if you could, please elaborate on what experiences have led you to your current career.
Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. So I would just like to share with you all, I come from humble roots. My family is from a small town in Kentucky, and I just feel very blessed to be here today. When I think about life, I lead with a servant's heart. I'm a very caring and compassionate individual, and I just generally like people. And so with that, I'm really big on being, a lifelong learner, if you will. I love to learn new things. And I'm also very cognizant of coming from my humble roots that I always wanted to strive to improve because, my parents and other parents, they really want their children and the next generation to do so much better. And realizing in high school and then college and undergraduate school, that school will remain nameless as well. I wanted to break the poverty cycle, if you will, not only that's plagued in the African American or Black community, but also within my own community as well. I am a first generation college graduate. I say that humbly and respectfully as well. Um, just kind of reflecting on my background, and I just wanted to make a difference, not only to help, the community, but help my own family as well. They talk now, or respectfully, there's a lot of discussion now about, generational wealth gaps in the community, and that's very real. I have firsthand experience and can speak a lot to that. And so, believing that education is the great equalizer, I wanted to go to school, get formalized education to propel and help. So early on in my career, I started out in finance and banking. So I started out in subprime lending, working for a particular finance company. I also worked in banking. I was an assistant vice president and branch manager at Chase Bank. Prior to that, I did work at KMBC, the Kentuckiana Minority Business Council. They are a regional council affiliate of the National Minority Supplier Development Council. And KMBC was a strategic partner with Greater Louisville Inc., our Metro Chamber of Commerce, really helping with minority business development and helping minority businesses to grow and sustain as entrepreneurs, which is also an excellent platform to, really improve poverty conditions and, work to have an equal, fair, level playing field. And so I would say those are some early experiences. And when the opportunity to come and work at MSD, our Metropolitan Sewer District, came up, I just jumped on the opportunity. MSD, we're all family. MSD is an excellent employer here in Louisville, Kentucky. We are a public utility company. We specialize in stormwater, wastewater, drainage, and flood protection. We're like three companies rolled into one. And so, because of the important work, that our organization does, as well as, myself within the company, all things supply chain, diversity, equity, and inclusion related, I am blessed to have the opportunity to continue to work with minority businesses, racial, ethnic minority businesses, woman owned businesses, and other small businesses now at this juncture. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ms. Walker. That's wonderful. I'm very familiar with the MBE, local. That's incredible. I read that on your bio. That was after the third hour of my reading, I might add. I got to that point. I'm sorry. See you. I'm sorry. Constantine, welcome. Misty, welcome. Glad you guys could make it. Sorry, you all know me by now. Relaxed, right? We're just trying to enjoy this. Ms. Walker immensely. So thank you for letting me ramble a little bit. So next question, Ms. Walker. Education and continuous learning are crucial. How do you continue learning? And would you mind elaborating on one learning event that transformed you? How did this event help to transform your mindset or goals, please?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. So I would say that, I just love to learn. It doesn't really matter the scale. It could be, something of a huge magnitude or something very, microscopic, if you will. Just, wanting to continue to, keep myself abreast of, different things professionally, personally. But I would share, I do read quite a bit professionally for work. But now that I graduated in December in the HROD program, I have really enjoyed, yes, yes, awesome program, by the way, as I'm sure many of you are well aware. So I love to do a lot of pleasure reading now. So I enjoy reading, and I also like to stay connected and abreast with things that are going on in real time in our local community, all the way to a national level, national platform, just to stay tuned in, plugged in. There's so many different learning experiences, particularly in the HROD program, but I would share at the early onset of the pandemic, that was in opportunity now that, it's like hindsight's 2020. We can reflect back, we can have a certain level of ease now that we're, for the most part, on the other side of the pandemic. But I would say that was an opportunity to really learn, one, kind of wrap my brain around it, because, in my particular lifetime, respectfully, I had never experienced naturally anything like that, right? And then if you think about historically over time, when you heard about other pandemics, it was so far removed, um, so much earlier in time, that even I think a lot of our family members didn't live through those type of pandemics, right? So naturally, as a diversity change agent, I tend to look at things a little bit differently, I think, because wanting to ensure equality, equity, and from an economic standpoint, I'm always learning and looking to see how can we ensure that diverse businesses, Black businesses, other minority businesses, woman-owned businesses, and small businesses have an opportunity. And so oftentimes in interacting with clients, colleagues, um, I'm always willing to have those type of conversations and discussions to ensure they have an opportunity to work within our business. But circling back to COVID-19, it was a learning opportunity, because at that particular early onset, March of 2020, I was beginning to have a relatively new workforce, a new team. And gradually over the years, since the early onset, I have more members on my team, staff members. But learning how to, one, deal with the crisis, professionally and personally, but then also thinking about, hybrid work schedules, because our organization, we have approximately 700 employees within our organization. So we're a relatively large, public utility agency, but thinking about how to really ensure that my team was okay. My team was whole, because one thing, we bring our entire selves to work. Depending on what you have going on in your personal life, your personal situation, you can't necessarily leave that at the door when you walk into a building, so to speak. And so having a hybrid work schedule, I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was there for them unconditionally, that I am going to support them regardless, and that we were still all family, but we were just trying to navigate that situation, having hybrid work schedules, working remotely, still conducting and having team meetings, still ensuring that we had a level of productivity. If someone had a home life situation to where, you know, daycare, for example, may have been a concern. How do you manage all of that? Because I mean, the world literally shut down. I mean, there were times when you couldn't go and, to the hair salon to get your hair fixed, right? I mean, these are just real life situations. So, I would say in a nutshell, COVID-19 was a huge learning event. And I could probably talk a little bit more about that, Dr. Sheffield, but to respect time, I'd say that in a nutshell takes care of that.
Joy, thank you. I don't think, I'm sure you have complete support of everybody you're going to mention too, that COVID-19 was a tremendous learning experience for all of us. I was just reflecting back on my own memory. First of all, I loved hearing you use the word reflection, right? We're thinking back on that. So thank you for that. That's wonderful to hear. And it helps us to grow, better forward as we kind of look toward humanity and mankind. How do we do better, right? Next time, what's our next step? Is it a kinder step and a more appropriate step? And that's wonderful to hear. You mentioned earlier, so this question is perfect. You're talking about communities. Communities tend to thrive when people are engaged. How do you foster transformation within your community and foster connection with others, please?
Oh, absolutely. So I will share that it was a pivotal point in my life when I had such a burning desire to start giving back, helping the community, because back then I thought, well, you had to be at a certain place in your life before you can support and give back and help others. That is totally not the case. At any point in your life, whether you're an adult, you're a youth, or respectfully, a retired senior citizen, we can help people at various stages and phases of our life. Because if one thing that COVID-19 taught me was that you meet people where they are. People hurt, and they hurt in different methods and manners. And it's not going to necessarily be the same way in which you hurt, but you meet people where they are. And so I was very intentional about deciding to, um, help other individuals. And it's a helping hand, a hand up in support. And so I vividly remember in my former career, one of my former employees was a Habitat home recipient. And I would never forget when we would, crank out those half days, Saturday work days. She was so happy to leave work to go work on her Habitat home. And so I never forgot that, you all. And so I thought, I'm going to reach out to Habitat for Humanity because it's such an awesome organization. And so here it's Habitat for Humanity of Metro Louisville. And it all started with researching their website because I love to do a little research too. I guess that's that curious mindset, continuous learning. I'm kind of nerdy when it comes to stuff like that. So I reached out and I thought, yes, I want to volunteer, on their finance committee. Well, lo and behold, it didn't stop there. So I've been volunteering with Habitat over a decade now. It's just amazing how time flies. So with Habitat, I sit on their board. I am their board treasurer, and I volunteer in many different capacities, just as one example, right? But it just feels so good. And it warms my heart when I can get out there in the community. I can do a house dedication. I can do a ground blessing because when you see really how someone that is so deserving, they're putting their 400 sweat equity hours to raise the roofs. They're going through the different classes to become eligible for a Habitat home. On average, they will have a 20-year mortgage, but no interest. They have they have to repay no interest. Now, can you imagine having a mortgage with no interest? I know, right? So I love Habitat. I really truly do. We're a very active board. We do love your neighborhoods. And so, I mean, it just warms and delights my heart. And I'm just so blessed that we can really help other individuals because everyone is deserving. And you talk about community, a way to strengthen the community is one Habitat home at a time because there's so many stats out there that share and show that a family that is united, they have safety, shelter. You think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that they're able to build generational wealth and have a strong community. And this is a strong community regardless of your zip code, okay? Because I'm a firm believer in that. It doesn't matter what part of the city that you reside in, home and community is home and community. um, so I do volunteer with other organizations as well. Whether it's, helping, with local, labor and helping the labor workforce, that's, community, with unions and, the workforce. So there's an awesome opportunity there. Most recently, MSD recognized me and another brilliant young lady as adult achievers through the local YMCA Black Achievers program. And it's come full circle, you all. As a youth achiever, kind of back in the day in the 90s, sometime in the 90s, we won't mention exactly when, but I was a youth achiever. And because of Black Achievers, I was blessed to go to college, to have an academic scholarship. And now, most recently, you all, I get to work with the youth. the youth in our community, the Black youth. So I'm excited to see, how that volunteer role, lands, and, what work that, I can do to really help support that awesome organization. Because I am a firm believer, to whom much is given, much is required. And I could go on and on, but for the sake of time, Dr. Sheffield, I just wanted to share that information.
Joy, sometimes I feel like I work hard and do a lot. And I'm not going to put Misty on the spot, but Misty has also been on our Transformation Tuesdays too. And she's a big wheel with Red Cross there in the community. And both of the times on one point of the call with both of you ladies, I literally felt like I need to come on the call with my head lowered because I am absolutely amazed at what you've gotten done. So thank you so much for caring so much. And we really do appreciate it. So I just wanted to intervene here for just a minute.
Oh, excuse me, Dr. Sheffield. I'm so sorry. I would be remiss if I did not mention my Sunday school class. I am an active member of St. Stephen Baptist Church under the awesome leadership of our senior pastor, Reverend Cosby, here in Louisville, Kentucky. He is just an awesome pastor. And in my Sunday school class, under the leadership of Miss Sherry Mills, she is an amazing leader in our entire church. I go to a mega Black church. And I say that just for context, respectfully. I have the awesome privilege of working with our Sunday school members and meeting them where they are. We never know in life the hand that's going to be dealt to us, whether it's, someone getting ill, someone being hospitalized, losing a close loved one. And I don't take this lightly, but part of my responsibilities in leadership in our faith-based community is to meet them where they are. Let them know on behalf of our class, we love you, we care for you, and we are here for you no matter what. And birthdays and things like that too. So I just wanted to share that. You talk about just warming your heart, because when you are a blessing to others, it comes back to you tenfold. That's not why you do it, because you have to have such a caring and compassionate heart. But I don't take that lightly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joy. Absolutely. Thank you, Misty. Totally agree. Just a couple questions left. How do you think continuous learning and transformation will inform your future?
Wonderful. Well, I must say, Dr. Sheffield, that my company, MSD, we're on the cutting edge when it comes to change management. And we have Blueprint 2025, which is essentially our strategic plan that drives the organization, organizational success factors. And in fact, I wrote about this in one of my classes, excuse me, if you will. So that is very important to our organization. A number of years ago, we went through a huge rebranding process. And as public sector employees, we want to be very cognizant, of our time, our careers, our work product, and we want to make sure that we're having total excellence within the organization. MSD is really big on people development, organizational goals, initiatives, working to protect our community one project at a time, starting with professional engineering, utility construction, and then the essential goods and services that really help to positively impact our infrastructure, our treatment plants, and things like that. And we now have expanded as a innovative regional utility of the future. We now operate in 3 separate counties: Jefferson County, which is Louisville, Kentucky; Oldham County, Kentucky; and also Bullitt County. So I'm excited and delighted to see what the future holds under our executive leadership, our executive director, Mr. Tony Parrott. And I must say that that was largely a huge part of why I chose to partake in the HROD program several years ago, because it's an amazing program. It really helps you to see organizationally how you can become a better asset to the company. Where can you help to share not only your academic experiences, your learning knowledge, you know, in your coursework, but how can you take that back to the organization as well? The HR aspects of the program, because also what I learned is it's so important that we are all HR ambassadors. Now, naturally, within most organizations, you have an HR division and HR department, but we are ambassadors. We all play a very vital role when it comes to HR because employees are the greatest asset of the organization. Mhm.
Well said, Ms. Walker. Well said. Is there a favorite book, novel, or movie that has shaped or impacted your life? And if you could elaborate a little bit, we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So I would say, because I'm an avid reader, I enjoy reading and everything. And so, but I love the movies too. So I would say my most favorite movie, which there are a lot out there, I must be honest, but I really love the movie Hidden Figures.
Hmm.
I'm not sure who all has seen the movie, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend Hidden Figures. um, and then, of course, I'll share with you a book. All right. So, Hidden Figures is and was an amazing, amazing movie, because during that particular movie, and I guess this is for um, maybe some of those respectfully that haven't seen the movie. But with the movie, it's centered around three extraordinary African American Black women. Okay. This is like during the 1960s. These women were pivotal in not only the movie, but in real life, because it's based on a real life situation at NASA. They were plagued with extreme racism, blatant racism. There was discrimination among women, and they changed the game in history, so to speak. Okay, in a nutshell, you had Katherine Johnson. She was a mathematical genius, and she really had to go against the grain and not give up to prove that she was just as qualified as the Caucasian males, but more qualified, to be totally transparent. Okay. She was a genius. It also was about another lady that, was overlooked for a supervisor position. And I'm sure some of you all can relate to that. Um, being overqualified for a position and not getting the opportunity. But the good news is eventually she was able to become a supervisor. But, just really thinking about, racism, the gender inequalities, from a systemic standpoint, the barriers, and really having to overcome so many challenges, even to, the restrooms, having to go far away to use the restroom and not being able to use the facilities as the other women individuals within the organization. So I would share that that's probably one of my all-time favorite movies. In fact, I need to read the book too. I need to add that to the list. I do have some new books in the pipeline. But I would share from books. I recently read Michelle Obama's book, The Light We Carry. Now, I'm a huge fan of the Obamas, former President Obama and Michelle Obama. I just think they're just awesome folks. They're just totally. Um, so when I read Becoming, I really enjoyed the book, right? Um, my preference, if I had to pick one particular area, was her upbringing. I mean, I resonated with that, right? And so I really enjoyed that portion. I'm gonna close the chat box there. Oops, give me just a second here. You gotta love technology. So, anywho, I would say that I really love that book, but equally so, if not more, is The Light We Carry. Because Michelle Obama, she's just brilliant. She talks about her strength. She talks about her vulnerabilities. Like, how many people are okay with talking about and being very transparent with their vulnerabilities, you know? And she just really talks about the load, the responsibility that we have in life. And I just cherish that book, and I just cherish the Obamas, and naturally many other, significant leaders, Dr. King, Rosa Parks, and then, my parents, my beloved dear grandmother, Queen Bee, who's no longer, with us, and many others. But thank you, Dr. Sheffield.
Excellent. Thank you, Joy. You reminded me, one of the things it runs in my head all the time. And I kept this since I was a young boy. And that was, I repeat, change is good over in my own head. I do, because that way, when challenges arrive, I know I have to adjust to them, and that usually they're good, but it's tough sometimes, right? So I love the mission that you've kind of laid out here. Now this was like the last question you have, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A. But as a point of reflection, Joy, what advice would you give a younger you?
Well, that's an excellent question because I'm really huge on self improvement, self reflection. I will share that I try to live my life without any regrets. I try to make the most of a situation. Sometimes it's not always easy, but I try to take a positive outlook, especially when you've had time to sit down, reevaluate, reassess, and truly look at things from other people's perspectives. It's not always easy, I will share with you. Um, but if I were to talk to my younger self, like maybe my 18-year-old self, right? Because I think, that's where like young adults, they start to really develop and blossom in life, and they don't necessarily know what's in store, even to some degree have the level of maturity. There's always exceptions to every rule, but what I would share, there's quite a few things really. I would say keep God first. Okay, because and these are just my own beliefs here, but I'm a firm believer that you keep God first, in everything that you do, regardless of how large or how small. Family is very important. Family is next, because at the end of the day, your family's going to be there for you regardless, during the good times, the bad times, the sad times, the I can't believe that I'm going through this times. We live in such trying times in today's society. I grew up, when I grew up, there was no internet. So my heart goes out to young people that are dealing with so many struggles and challenges and depression and suicide. I mean, you can't begin to fathom, you know, what they're dealing with, right? And I say that respectfully, because I just love people. I really truly do. I would say don't be afraid to take calculated risk. I think that at that time in my life, I was probably a little risk adverse, and I would say don't be afraid to relocate. I'm, from Louisville. I grew up, in Louisville, but there's so much more in life out there. So many different cultures, so many different experiences. And I think that that's probably something I would have done differently given the mindset that I have today. Now, naturally, I would have been able to go to graduate school at UofL virtually because I love the virtual program. I'm not going to lie to you, absolutely love it. And so I would have been a little bit more courageous, and taking advantage of that because, one thing you can't beat exposure. You just can't. Exposure to, different people, foods, experiences, the whole nine. I mean, if you really think about it. So I have the utmost respect. You may not necessarily agree with somebody's values in life, but you should respect people. I'm a believer of that. You respect people. God didn't put all knowledge in one person's head. We all have our own different gifts and talents. We have different personalities, but that's what, makes us all unique. I would share that I would probably speak up a little bit more, let my voice be heard. I don't think that, you know, I was a little bit more cautious back then. And it's interesting because I think that in order to survive, if you will, and be respected, and just to let people know like your stance and your perspective, because you can agree to disagree all day long, but you got to be respectful, but appreciate other people. I would say that would be something that I would definitely do. I was just so reserved and shy. Um, but one of my favorite sayings is, "This too shall pass." And I think that at 18, having that mindset of "this too shall pass" is very important. Don't be so quick to date. It's so funny because Michelle Obama, she's got this saying about um, books over boys, right? So choose your books over boys. And don't be so quick, or let me just say it like this. When it comes to choosing your lifetime mate, choose very wisely. hmm I think that's very important. Um, don't judge a book by its cover. I think that probably a lot of people are guilty of that, right? Because you just never know until you really get to know that person, their perspective, some of the things that they have gone through, dealt with, upbringings, it makes a difference. Save your money. You may think that you have very little at that time, but it's very important to save your money because you're going to need it in life. Daddy reminds me about those kind of things. And, you don't think that your parents are as cool as they really are, but your parents are really cool people. And you will find that they're your best friends. Because at the end of the day, when the rubber meets the road, you know, your parents are going to be there. And I thank God my parents aren't perfect. I'm not perfect, but I thank God every day for my parents. One's a traditionalist and the other's a baby boomer. So that's what I would share, Dr. Sheffield.
Joy, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I'd like to open it up if I could to just anybody on the call here with us. Any questions for Joy? Anything at all that you'd like to learn a little more about, or are curious about her role or anything she's done? And it's okay if we don't. I know we've got a lot going on. Joy, you've been absolutely wonderful today. Thank you so much for coming. And I just wanted to say this. I was taking some great notes here. One of the things that you said, meet people where they are. My wife has been a counselor, and she's a professor who teaches counselors to become counselors. And she's been a counselor a long time, and she has been saying these words to me since we were about 15 years old. We've been together since we were 13, and that was one of the things that she has been saying to me that honestly at 15 I didn't understand. Really at 50 I didn't understand, but I'm 54 now, and it begins to make some sense to me now because I'm a guy. I'm slow, so it's making sense to me, right? So, and I understand it, but I love your perspective on this because adapting yourself to help other people to grow and learn is truly a gift. And I don't, I'm not even sure that we can earn that gift. I think you kind of have it. A lot of people, some people have it a little bit more than others, and that's wonderful. But I just wanted to tell you on behalf of the University of Louisville, we are extremely proud of you. We really are. And we really do thank you for talking with us today and sharing everything that you have.
Well, Dr. Sheffield, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing, your life journey, some family, reflection. Thank you so much for your awesome support in the HROD program. Miss Hildebrand, it has been a pleasure working with you in various capacities. Thank you all so much for joining today. I mean, I am just so humble. I'm just so blessed to be here, just to share this time with you all. And one of the very best decisions that I made, I must be totally honest with you all, is when I went to U of L, and I don't want to tear up, but when I went to U of L and participated in the HROD program. Being that I was shy at 18, I was very intimidated about U of L. U of L has a really large campus. And it's one of the best decisions. I mean, from attending the virtual program, I was always a traditional student in the traditional classroom. But I've made so many everlasting, friendships. The professors were all incredible, just smart, caring, whether we were still in their class or not. You have their cell phone number, you can text them, they get back with you right away. The curriculum was so informative, so pivotal. And because I am a lifelong learner, there's so many concepts, things that I learned in the program that I will continue to apply at various times within my career, throughout the workday. It's so funny because, my boss, she kind of gets a kick out of it because I will share something that I learned just as we're working on a project, modifying policy. I have the privilege of working under Mrs. Renee Lindsay. She's our executive leader and our chief procurement officer here at MSD. So I'm just blessed to work with her, learn and so many classes, so many professors are so memorable. But just a few, and I, don't want to overlook any. So, but like strategic HR, that was like my very first class, leadership, organizational change and consulting, because if you think about your company, you want change, right? And many years ago, I just learned to accept change. Change is inevitable, right? And you want to be with an organization that's going to be on the cutting edge, that cares about its employees, and see how you can plug in. What can you do to really help the company? Performance management and rewards, talent acquisition. We want the best, we want the brightest. What are some of the methodologies that we can incorporate to ensure that the organization and the team, everyone is on the same page, everyone is moving in the right direction, organizational and learning and from an adult perspective, all of those different facets. So I will share that is truly one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. And I just commend you all for where you are on your journey. I'm grateful that you took some time out of your very busy day, and it's just a blessing. And that's kind of where I lead. I tend to, they say lead from your head and your heart. And I think that the heart is just amazing because you can have the intellect all day long. But if you don't care and you don't lead from a compassionate place, whether that's career from your career standpoint, just living your daily life, it's going to make a difference. And I just think that it's incredible as we continue to journey forward. Let's just
Good.
make life and our place a better place.
Thank you so much, Joy. Really appreciate it. This has been wonderful.